we're going to take a look at Adhere for Alfresco, which helps us bridge the gap between SharePoint, Alfresco, and some other really useful technologies that we'll explore a bit today. The idea here is that your human resources department is likely already using SharePoint. So why change that? Using Adhere, we can make sure that we can have all of the familiarity of SharePoint and all of the power of a full ECM like Alfresco running in the background. So what we really want to do for this flow is create and onboard a new employee. And we want to do that in the simplest way possible and ensure that we have all of the required documents necessary for onboarding and that our process is seamless, that our users can use the technology that they're used to. So the HR generalist will be using SharePoint and our records manager will be using Alfresco. And we'll make sure that we can process these documents through the system in a convenient and automated way. So to start out, we notice that we're in our Human Resources Employees folder, and what we want to do is create a new employee. So to do that, we're going to create a new folder. We're going to name it Andy Applicant. We're going to save it, and in a moment this will sync back to Alfresco. What will happen is that we will actually generate a folder hierarchy. So we have automatic provisioning of these subfolders, which with SharePoint alone is an extremely difficult thing to achieve. Because we have Alfresco in the background, we're also going to be starting up a workflow. We're going to send out notification emails, and we're going to see that we're driving a lot of the processing that we're doing, all while allowing our user, our HR generalist, to interface with the system via SharePoint. We see that we've been notified of a new HR case being created. So when we come in to our email, our inbox, we see that we have, hello, welcome to our company. Please provide the following documents. So just by creating this HR folder, we've actually kicked off a big workflow in the background that's handling all of our automation for us. What's requested here is a Form I-9 and a Form W-4. We could forward these documents onto a special email address, or we can just drag and drop them into SharePoint, which we're already using. So when we come back to our employees folder, we see that now Andy Applicant has been processed. We see that we've automatically generated a user ID for this user. And when we click into their folder, we're going to see that we have these folders that have been created for us. The idea behind these folders is that different documents that we put into our employee's case are going to have different levels of access that they should allow. So something like a performance appraisal will maybe end up in our secret folder where it has stronger policies for keeping that as a confidential document. We have sensitive, we have casual. These are different levels for different types of documents. So what we want to do here is just drag and drop in our documents. So if we recall from the email, we are expecting an I-9 and a W-4 for this person. So all we need to do is drag and drop our I-9 into our SharePoint folder and give it a moment for it to sync. Once the document syncs, we notice that we have another email in our inbox. We see that we received our I-9, but we need to provide the following document, the Form W-4. So we uploaded one of our two required documents, and the system has notified us that it's still expecting another of the documents. This is because our backend system, Alfresco, is actually running an entire validation workflow around the documents that are dropped into the case. Alfresco is relying on Effisoft for classification of the documents that are placed into the system. So Alfresco is able to call out to Effisoft with the documents that have been uploaded to the case folder. It gets a type for those, in our case an I-9, and then it runs validation against the types that are contained within the case folder itself. So again, we've received our I-9, but we've not yet received our W-4. If we switch back to our SharePoint view and refresh, we'll notice that our document is actually gone from the main folder, and that's because it's been filed into our sensitive folder. This sensitive folder now contains our I-9, which has been renamed to make it easier to find. And if we open this, we're going to see that our I-9 now resides in Alfresco, exposed via SharePoint. So this document has been put into the sensitive folder because it contains a social security number. We've configured the type to automatically move into that sensitive folder because we know that it is sensitive data and we know what the type is. So, as we saw, we still need to upload our other document, our W4. So we'll just follow the same process, drag and drop to the root of our folder, and then we will give SharePoint and Alfresco a chance to sync. If we navigate back into our sensitive folder, we're going to see that along with our I-9 is our W4 created just a few seconds ago. So with this, we've completed the package of documents expected for a new hire, a new employee. So what we've really seen here is our ability to create a human resources folder by just simply creating a folder within SharePoint, having the automatic provisioning of the folder structure, the template that we require for these employees, and then we've also started our workflow, which drives this entire process, as well as sent several notification emails to let users know what's going on within the system. So, just as our HR user is really comfortable within SharePoint, our records manager is actually more comfortable within Alfresco. So we're going to allow him to work that way. What we see here is Alfresco Share. And when we refresh our page, we're going to see that within our user's tasks, this is our records manager, we see that he has in his queue a review file task. This task has been assigned to him because the previous tasks in this workflow, as we saw in SharePoint, have been completed. So let's take a quick look at the actual workflow that's been driving this entire process and look at exactly how we got here. So when we first created our HR folder, we fell into this first sub-process where we are classifying and validating the package of documents for our employee. So we start at the hold for documents for user, and this is where we sent out our email and awaited the documents that were being uploaded into SharePoint by the HR generalist or even by the employee. When a new document entered the system, we classified and extracted that using in-process capture, reaching out to Effisoft, and then, based on the results of that, we were able to validate that our package was complete. We were able to check if we had both the W4 and the I-9. The first time around, we failed that validation, sent out our invalid package notification, and ended up back at holding for documents from our user. We then uploaded our second document, our I-9. We classified, extracted, validated, and in this case, we completed our sub-process and moved on to the next sub-process. In this sub-process, we really focused on the RM pieces of this flow. So we started by applying our retention policy, the suggested policy that will be used once we push things to the Alfresco records management module. We did some work around the PII status to see if this has personally identifiable information. And then finally, we are now, as we can see by this red outline, assigned to a user, this is the records manager, to review the file before we go ahead and push it into records management. So let's take a look at what that actually looks like. If we come back to our My Tasks, again, we see review file. When we open it up, we see some basic information, our priority, an identifier, and then most importantly, we see the actual case itself assigned to the RM user for review. So when we click into the HR case, we can see the HR folder with all of the information. the employee's information, the employee ID, departmental information, the fact that he's a full-time employee, as well as all of the kind of standard ECM information that we would have on any folder or document. So our created date, our modified date, all of that information. So this is the case itself, but we can click in further and see the contents of that case, again in that same view that we saw before. We know that our two documents live within the sensitive folder, so we can open these documents to review them here. We'll see a preview, and then we also see the specific information for the document. We see the employee last name, all of the information before, and then we also see that we have the actual records management policy here. We have cut off, retain for 7 years, then destroy. So at this state, we're doing a manual review of the suggested policies, but in reality, this could also be an automated task before we automatically push this information into the records management system. So with that, let's go back to our task and go ahead and approve. We could look at our second document, but it's just more of the same. So we're going to go ahead and click Task Done. When we click Task Done, this is actually going to complete our flow. We've now gathered all of the documents that we need. We've pushed them into the records management system. And now if we want to go look at our records management file plan, we can click into the file plan itself. We can come into the human resources category, our employee files. It's by year, then by month, and then finally by the actual employee. So when we click into the applicant, we're going to see both of the documents here. We can open this further and see all of the information about this document. We see that we're retaining the document for 7 years, then destroying it, and we have all of the records management information that we'd expect. Now if we jump back to Outlook, we see that we actually have several ways of accessing the information that we have in our repository. So of course we can do it via SharePoint, which we use every day, but we also use Outlook every day. So we can take a look within our same folder structure under our human resources, under employees, and then we can take a look at all of our individual employees. Let's take a look at mine, and we'll see that if we look in my secret folder, we actually have a performance appraisal that has been placed in this secret location. So if we download this, we can just download it to any folder that we need. We'll put it in our Adhere demo folder. And when we open it, we notice first that we have our Covertix logo. It's telling us that this is a protected document. And when we open it in Word, we're going to see that the Smart Cipher protected emblem appears at the top of the screen. So the idea here is that because this is a secret document coming from the secret folder, this performance appraisal is protected additionally beyond just the standard SharePoint or Alfresco protection. And it gives us the ability to lock down the document further. It allows us to make sure that if something is copy and pasted from this document into another document, we know that both documents are actually Smart Cipher protected, and allows us a lot of flexibility around ensuring that these documents are only seen, only edited, and only downloaded and reproduced by people who are supposed to be able to see these documents. So what we've just seen is an end-to-end HR automation workflow. We've used SharePoint on the front end because that's what our users are used to, but we've used many other technologies on the back end to enable us to provision folders, to start workflow, to send email notification, to allow for greater protection of documents, and allow us for syncing between our SharePoint and Alfresco systems. By creating a seamless experience for our users, we're able to ensure that they get more done using the systems that they're already comfortable and familiar with. Thanks.